Hello everyone. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and let's go.
Real loyalty is not tested when life is easy. It is revealed when the pressure is on. He believed they were fighting the battle of life together, only to discover through cold, hard data that he was the only one left on the battlefield. Let's analyze the subtle digital and behavioral red flags that most men ignore until the damage is irreversible. Viewer discretion is advised. Educational purpose only. It was a Friday evening in Phoenix, the kind where the heat does not just sit on you, it hunts you down. Even with the AC rattling its lungs out, the living room felt like a convection oven. I was sitting on the couch, surrounded by a fortress of paperwork. The electric bill was up, the water bill was up, and my teacher's salary was exactly where it had been 5 years ago. I was trying to figure out if we could afford to fix the transmission on my Ford, or if I'd be taking the bus to school next month. Donna was in the bedroom getting ready for her shift at the Roadhouse Grill. She walked out, tugging at her uniform, looking miserable. My feet are killing me before I even start. Paul, she complained, leaning against the doorframe. She looked tired. We were both tired. That's what marriage had become, a shared exhaustion. I hate that place. The tips have been garbage lately. I know, babe, I said, rubbing my temples. Just hang in there. Once I get tenure, things will ease up. She rolled her eyes. She'd heard that before. Then the doorbell rang. It was not a polite ring. It was a confident, demanding buzz. I opened the door, and there stood Mike, my college buddy. The guy who went into real estate while I went into education. He was wearing a linen suit that probably cost more than my car, leaning against a shiny black BMW parked in my driveway like he owned the pavement. "Paulie, my man!" He grinned, his teeth blindingly white. "Tell me you guys are not busy. The Mirage is opening their new rooftop lounge tonight. VIP access. My treat." I sighed, shaking my head. "Cannot do it, Mike. Donna's got a shift in 20 minutes, and I've got a mountain of grading to do. Plus, we're tightening the belt this month." I waited for Donna to back me up. I waited for her to say, "Yeah, Mike, we're responsible adults." But silence hung in the air. I turned around. Donna was not looking at me. She was looking at Mike. And for the first time in years, the fatigue was gone from her face. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the streetlights and the promise of something expensive. "Donna?" I said. She blinked and then reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She did not even hesitate. She dialed the restaurant right there in front of me. "Jerry? It's Donna," she said, her voice dropping into a fake, raspy whisper. "I can't not make it. I've been throwing up for an hour. Yeah, it's a stomach bug. I'm so sorry." She hung up and looked at me. There was no guilt, just adrenaline. "We need this, Paul. I need this." She ran back to the bedroom, tearing off her apron before she even hit the hallway. I stood there, stunned. She had just blown off a shift we desperately needed for a night of free booze. 15 minutes later, the woman who walked out of the bedroom was not my wife. The tired waitress was gone. In her place was a knockout in a red dress that clung to her curves like a second skin. She had put on heels that made her legs look endless and doused herself in a perfume I had not smelled in over a year. "Let's go," she said, grabbing her silver clutch. She did not look at me. She looked past me, toward the BMW. We called an Uber so we could drink. As I locked the front door, leaving my sensible life behind, I felt a knot in my stomach. It was not the heat. It was the feeling that I was just a passenger in my own life, and the car was speeding off a cliff. The mirage was an assault on the senses. Bass that rattled your ribcage, strobe lights that cut through the darkness, and the smell of expensive cologne mixed with sweat. Mike did not wait in line. He nodded at the bouncer, slipped him a folded bill, and the velvet rope parted like the Red Sea. We were ushered to a VIP table right next to the dance floor. "Bottle service," Mike shouted over the music. A waitress in a bikini brought out a bottle of Grey Goose with a sparkler attached to it. I did the math in my head. That was $500. That was my grocery budget for the month. Mike paid for it without even looking at the bill. I sat on the edge of the leather booth, nursing a whiskey, feeling like a ghost. I did not belong here. I was wearing a button-down from Target and sensible shoes. Mike and Donna? They looked like they were starring in a music video. They were on a different wavelength. They laughed at inside jokes I did not get. They talked about Cabo and Vail, places Mike went on vacation, places Donna dreamed about. "You remember that time in Vegas?" Mike yelled to her. "God, do not remind me," she shrieked, laughing a little too hard, touching his arm. I watched her. She was looking at his Rolex, then her eyes flicked to my wrist, to my battered Casio watch. The comparison was silent, but it was loud enough to deafen me. By 1 a.m., the alcohol had done its job. Donna's cheeks were flushed. "Come dance," she yelled at me. "I'm good here," I said. "I'm not really feeling it." "Suit yourself, buzzkill," she snapped. She grabbed Mike's hand. He shot me a look, half apology, half smirk, and led her to the floor. I watched from the booth. It was dark, crowded, sweaty, but I could see them. They were not dancing like friends. They were grinding. The rhythm of the music pushed them together. Donna had her back to him, swaying her hips in a way that was pure invitation. Mike whispered something in her ear, his lips brushing her neck. She threw her head back and laughed, her hand reaching up to grip the back of his neck, her fingers tangling in his hair. It was possessive. It was intimate. It was a display. At 2 a.m., I'd had enough. I walked onto the dance floor, pushing through the sweating bodies. I tapped Donna on the shoulder. "Donna, we're leaving. Now." She spun around, her eyes glassy and wild. She pushed my hand away. "Stop it, Paul. You're embarrassing me. You're always such a downer. I'm having fun for the first time in forever." Mike stepped between us, putting a hand on my chest. It was patronizing, the way you calm down a drunk uncle. "Whoa, easy there, Tiger," Mike said, flashing that salesman smile. "Look, she's just blowing off steam. You look beat, buddy. Why don't you head out? Get some sleep. I'll call her an Uber Black in an hour. I promise I'll get her home safe." I looked at Donna. She was not looking at me. She was looking at Mike, silently begging him to let her stay. I realized then that if I forced her to leave, I'd be the villain, and if I stayed, I'd be the fool. "Fine," I said, my voice cold. "Do not be late." I turned my back on them. I walked out into the humid Phoenix night alone. I did not look back. If I had, I probably would have seen them laughing at me. The ride home in the Uber was silent. The driver tried to make small talk about the heat, but I just stared out the window. The city passed by in a blur of neon and darkness. I got home to a silent house. It felt empty. Not just physically empty, but spiritually. I took a shower, trying to wash the smell of the club off me, but the anxiety was under my skin. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above me. 3 a.m. 4 a.m. She was not home. I must have dozed off from sheer exhaustion, because I snapped awake at 5:30 a.m. The sun was just starting to bleed through the blinds, painting the room in a sickly gray light. I rolled over. The other side of the bed was pristine. The pillow was fluffy. Cold. A wave of panic hit me, but it was quickly replaced by something else. A cold, hard knot of suspicion. I did not call her. I did not want to hear the lie she was cooking up. I reached for my iPad on the nightstand. We shared a data plan. We had family sharing enabled on our Apple accounts, mostly so I could find her phone when she lost it in the couch cushions. I opened the Find My app. The map of Phoenix loaded. A blue dot pulsed at my house. Me. I scanned the map for the red dot with her initials. It was not at the club. It was not on the highway. It was not moving. The red dot was stationary in Paradise Valley, the wealthiest zip code in the state. I zoomed in. Oak Drive. My heart stopped, then hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I knew that address. I had been there for barbecues. I had helped move furniture there. It was Mike's house. The timestamp said, updated 1 minute ago. She had been there for hours. She was not getting a ride. She was parked. The teacher in me, the guy who believed in logic and history, died in that moment. There was no historical precedent for this, where the good guy wins by being patient. I closed the iPad cover with a snap. I did not scream. I did not throw the lamp against the wall. I felt a strange, icy calm settle over me. It was the calm of a man who finally knows the truth. I got dressed. Jeans, a black t-shirt, sneakers. I grabbed the keys to my Ford. I needed to see it. I needed the image burned into my retina so that later, when she tried to gaslight me, when she tried to say, "We just talked," I would not waver. I drove to Paradise Valley. The streets were wide, lined with palm trees and manicured lawns. It was 6 a.m. on a Saturday. The rich were still sleeping. I parked my truck a block away from Mike's mansion. I walked the rest of the way, sticking to the shadows of the oleander hedges. There it was. Mike's sprawling Spanish-style villa. I crept up the driveway, keeping low, and there was the evidence, sitting right in front of the 3-car garage. Mike's black BMW. I walked up to the passenger side. The windows were tinted, but I cupped my hands against the glass and peered inside. There, on the beige leather seat, sat a silver clutch. Donna's clutch. She had been in such a rush to get inside, to get her hands on him, that she had left her purse in the car. It was careless. It was disrespectful. It was perfect. I looked up at the second floor, the master bedroom window. The heavy blackout curtains were drawn tight. I knew what was happening in there, or what had already happened. The air conditioner hummed, cooling the sweat on their bodies while I stood in the rising heat. I pulled out my phone. Click. A photo of the BMW with the license plate. Click. A close-up through the window of her purse. Click. A screenshot of the GPS location on my phone with the "You are here" blue dot right on top of Mike's house. That was it. The trial was over. The verdict was guilty. I walked back to my truck. I did not feel sad anymore. I felt lighter. The Paul who worried about paying for her credit card debt was gone. The Paul who tolerated her disrespect was gone. I started the engine. It was time to go to work. I drove back to our rental house with the focus of a tactical strike team. I had maybe 2 hours before she woke up and started constructing her alibi. I pulled into the garage and closed the door. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed a box of heavy-duty black trash bags, the kind you use for yard waste. I went to the bedroom. I did not destroy her things. I did not cut up her clothes. That's what crazy people do. I was efficient. I opened her side of the closet. I swept her dresses, her jeans, her endless collection of shoes into the bags. Crash. Thud. I went to the bathroom. Her makeup, her lotions, her 3 different curling irons into the bag. I dragged the bags, 5 of them, out to the garage. I piled them up in a corner. Not on the curb, just out of the house. She could figure out how to move them. Then, I went to my computer. I logged into our joint Wells Fargo account. I transferred precisely 50% of the balance, my half, into a new account I had opened online 10 minutes prior. I left her with exactly her share of the money, which was not much. I logged into the credit card portal. The card was in my name, but she was an authorized user. Click. Remove authorized user. Click. Report card lost, stolen, just to be sure the physical card stopped working immediately. I called my car insurance company automated line. Remove driver, Donna. Then I packed my life. It did not take long. My clothes, my laptop, my grading papers, my toiletries. I packed my grandfather's watch and my few valuables into the Ford. The house looked different now. It looked like a hotel room I was checking out of. I walked to the kitchen table. I took off my wedding band. It made a hollow clink as I set it on the wood. Next to the ring, I placed a single sheet of paper. It was a color printout of the screenshot I took earlier. The map showing her location at Mike's house at 5:30 a.m. No note, no "how could you," no "I hate you." She did not deserve my words. My silence would haunt her more than any scream ever could. I walked out the front door, locked it, and tossed the house key through the mail slot. I got in my truck, put it in drive, and headed for the interstate. I did not look in the rearview mirror. While I was driving toward a new life, the scene at Mike's house was playing out exactly as I knew it would. It was 9 a.m. when Donna stirred in the high thread count sheets of Mike's king-sized bed. The room was cool, smelling of expensive cedar and stale sex. She stretched, a smile playing on her lips. Her head pounded from the vodka, but she felt triumphant. She had crossed the line. She had slept with a successful, rich alpha male. In her mind, the transition had begun. Goodbye, boring teacher Paul. Hello, Scottsdale socialite life. She rolled over, expecting to see Mike gazing at her with adoration, ready to order room service. Instead, Mike was standing by the mirror, fully dressed in a polo and golf shorts. He was texting. He looked annoyed. "Morning," Donna purred, sitting up and pulling the sheet up to her chest, trying to look cute. Mike glanced at her in the reflection of the mirror. He did not smile. "You're up. Good. I've got a tea time in 40 minutes. Donna's smile faltered. "Oh, I thought maybe we could get breakfast? Talk about last night?" Mike turned around, sliding his phone into his pocket. His face was blank. The charm was gone. "What's to talk about? It was fun. You were wild. High five." "Fun?" Donna blinked. "Mike, I cheated on Paul. For you." Mike laughed. It was not a nice laugh. It was a dry, cruel bark. "Donna, stop. Do not make this weird. You did not do it for me. You did it because you wanted to ride in a BMW and drink free booze." He walked over to the door and opened it. "Look, you gotta go. My cleaning lady is coming at 10, and I do not want her asking questions." Donna felt the blood drain from her face. "But what about us?" "Us?" Mike looked at her like she was a slow child. "Babe, You're a waitress with a mountain of credit card debt and a husband who's my friend. Well, ex-friend now, I guess. I do not date married women. I sleep with them occasionally, sure, but I do not date them. You used me? Tears pricked her eyes. We used each other, Mike corrected coldly. I got a night of fun. You got to pretend you were rich for 6 hours. Transaction complete. He picked up her keys from the dresser and tossed them onto the bed. Your purse is in my car. I'll pop the trunk. You can call an Uber from the gate. Security will not let you hang around. I can't not go home, she wailed. Paul. Not my problem, Mike said, checking his Rolex. Seriously, Donna, get dressed. You have 5 minutes. He walked out of the room, leaving her sitting in the luxurious bed that suddenly felt like a cold, lonely island. She had traded her life for a man who looked at her like she was an expired coupon. It took Donna 2 hours to get home. She cried the whole way. When she got to our house, her key would not work. I had not changed the locks. She was just shaking so hard she could not turn it. Finally, she got in. The silence of the house hit her like a physical blow. She saw the empty spaces where my things used to be. She ran to the garage and saw the trash bags, her life, reduced to garbage. Then she saw the kitchen table, the ring, the map. She collapsed on the floor, wailing. She called me, straight to voicemail. She called Mike, blocked. 1 month later. I had moved to Flagstaff. Cooler air, higher altitude. I got a job at a private school that appreciated history teachers who actually cared. I was renting a small apartment, but it was mine. No debt, no drama. I had to come back to Phoenix one last time to sign some final papers for the divorce lawyer and transfer the car title. I was at Union Station, waiting for the train back north. I walked into the station cafe to grab a black coffee. The place smelled of burnt grease and despair. I walked to the counter, and there she was, Donna. She was not wearing a red dress. She was wearing a stained brown polyester uniform that was 2 sizes too big. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy, greasy bun. She looked 10 years older. The glow was gone. She was wiping down the counter with a gray rag. She looked up when I approached. Her eyes locked onto mine. She froze. The rag dropped from her hand. Paul. Her voice was a cracked whisper. I saw the hope flare up in her eyes, the desperate hope that I would yell or cry or ask her to come back. She took a step toward the register, her hands trembling. Paul, please, she stammered. I'm staying at my sister's. I can explain. I made a mistake. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No anger, no love, just the indifference you feel for a stranger on the street. I did not answer her. I did not acknowledge her apology. I looked past her to the menu board. Then I looked at the other cashier, a teenager chewing gum. Large black coffee. To go, I said to the kid, handing him a $5 bill. Paul! Donna cried, tears spilling over, streaking her cheap makeup. People were starting to stare. I took my coffee. I turned around. Donna was sobbing now, leaning over the counter, reaching out a hand toward me. I walked out the door. The automatic doors slid shut behind me, cutting off the sound of her crying. I walked onto the platform. The train whistle blew, a long, mournful sound that signaled departure. I stepped onto the train, found a window seat, and watched the platform slide away. The Arizona sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant purples and oranges. It was beautiful. For the first time in years, I was free. I took a sip of my coffee. It tasted better than any champagne Mike could ever buy. The protagonist did not make the mistake of pleading or fighting. His only error was ignoring the earlier signs that respect had left the building long before she did. By choosing a stoic, silent exit, he denied her the emotional reaction she craved and protected his dignity. Key takeaways. 1. Trust actions, not tears. When words and location data contradict each other, believe the data. 2. The strategic exit. Once trust is broken, secure your finances immediately and cut contact. Silence is often the loudest punishment. CTA. How would you have handled the encounter at the train station? Would you have spoken to her? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more honest case studies.